Mike, would you ever go back to getting a regular job? That is the question that we're going to tackle today. Let me give some context as to where this question is coming from. I've been asked this recently from a number of different people. And just for context, I have been in business for myself full-time, legitimately full-time, since 2015. So that means as of this recording, I've been in business for 8 years. 8 glorious, up and down, yet glorious years. I started out as a marketing consultant, a brand strategist, and a direct response copywriting, doing freelance projects. I'd worked myself slowly out of my day job as a chief marketing officer for an educational company in the New Jersey area. And I had created content, blogging, eventually podcasting, and then social media, right? And built up an audience and made the leap to becoming a full-time business owner, full-time self-employed, if you will. And you can throw the word entrepreneur out there if you want to. I've been asked this question several times through the years, especially because I focus on helping people build a personal brand, to use that personal brand intentionally to attract clients, to showcase their unique expertise, and to really build a business. And so I've been asked, hey, you've been in the game for a little while, you've done some things, would you ever go back to getting a job? Is it even on your radar? And the quick and direct answer is, yeah, I'd consider it. It's not my first preference, but I would consider it. And here's why I'm sharing this today, because I think a lot of people feel that once you go into work for yourself, once you start a business, that if you pivot back out of that, that you are a complete failure, that something is wrong with you, that you didn't do something right. And I want to dispel that notion right there. Get that head trash out of there, right? There's nothing wrong with going back if that's something you feel you want to do or you have to do, okay? Now, a couple of years ago, when the world locked down during the COVID pandemic, right? We were all locked down and quarantined. I had a lot of people I was coaching in the expert industry space, coaches, consultants, freelancers, right? Designers, creators, if you will. And they were worried, understandably so, about their business. And I said to the folks I coached, all of them, I said, there's no shame in downshifting, either lowering your rates, picking up client work again. A lot of my people had gotten out of doing client work and started coaching rather than doing deliverables, as a marketer, right? And I said, there's no shame in that if that's what you need to do, right? There's never any shame in you doing what you need to do to feed your family, to put a roof over your head, to pay the bills. No shame. So get that out of there. But I want to come at this from a different angle. And the reason I shared that I would be open to it is not because of finances. It would be because of impact. And that's just the way that I'm wired. It doesn't mean that I'm better or worse than anyone else out there. If your primary motivator is to make money and as much money as you possibly can, great. Then you might be able to do stuff that I'm not willing to do, right? Now, if your primary motivator is freedom, it's one of my primary drivers. I want freedom of schedule, freedom of team, to be able to work with the people I want to work with, the clients that I want to work with. That's really, really important. I might not be willing to do certain things that other people are willing to do just for the sake of money. It makes me too busy. I'm not going to want to do that, right? But here's the other side of it. I'm also driven very deeply by impact. As I have continued in business for myself all of these years, started, especially over the last 2 years, to ask myself, can I see myself doing this in the next 5 years? Can I see myself doing it for the next 10 years? Can I continually serve the market that I'm serving and feel fulfilled, right? And I'm not sure that answer is a yes or no. I still love what I do. I try every day to work really hard to deliver as much value to you and the other people who tune in, people who work with me in my Marketing Academy program or in my mastermind groups, you name it. Anywhere I can serve, I try to do the best that I can. And I've thought about this. What if some huge global organization that I really believed in, let's just take a charitable organization, for example, right? I'm just going to throw one out there and knock on wood, maybe this will work, right? World Vision calls me and say, hey, Mike, would you consider coming to work for us, help us with our marketing, take a staff position? And to me, I'd really have to consider that. I'd really have to sit down and say, can I really make some big decisions on behalf of this organization to really alleviate poverty and really help meet felt needs? I might consider that, right? Or if an organization called me and said, hey, we rescue kids out of the sex trade. And there's an organization, Love 146, that I've served over the years and contributed to and tried to talk quite a lot about on my platform. And if they said, and it aligned with kind of what season of life I was in, would you consider working with us or a larger organization where you can have a direct hand in impacting the lives of these kids? I would pause and really, really think about it. Others have still asked, would you consider getting into politics and political marketing? And I'm like, I don't know that I believe in any of them enough to do that, right? I want to share this with you, whether you've tuned into some of my content for a long time or you've just recently kind of encountered me, or this is maybe the first time you're hearing anything I'm sharing. I'm sharing this from the perspective of someone who has been in business for 8 years for myself. I love the freedom, the ability to control my day as much as, I'm able, right? To have agency over my schedule, over the people that I meet and hang out with, the people that I serve. And yet I find myself asking, is this really fulfilling? Will this continue to be fulfilling? And if it's not a hell yes, I've got to start thinking a couple of years ahead. I want to encourage you with this, and it's a weird feeling, and and yet I've become familiar with this feeling, and I don't want this to come across as self-aggrandizing or arrogant. And I also, that said, don't want you to feel this way if you ever feel this way. I remember looking back on my career. I started out in church ministry, on staff at a church as the worship pastor. That was my official title. For those who aren't familiar with that world, I was basically the music director of a church full time. And then I left that after 4 years. And I remember this feeling that I had in my soul, right, in my heart. And not in a self-aggrandizing way, but I felt like I was getting too big. I had too much capacity. Felt like I could do more than just what that role entailed. I would say to myself often, especially towards the latter part of my time doing that, I don't think a fulfilling life is going to entail me singing music for 30 minutes, 3 times every Sunday morning for the same 1,000 people. I didn't know what my next life would look like. If you would have told me I would have ended up in marketing and creating content online, I would have thought you were crazy. I didn't even know this thing existed. Okay. So I remember feeling that. And then I went to go work at this company. And I took over their marketing. I was teaching high school students after school classes to get ready for their SATs. And I was also doing the marketing for this company. And I remember feeling the same way. I said, I feel like I have way more capacity than this role. And when I stepped out in 2015 and stepped into full-time self-employed work, right? I'm going to call it self-employed. I don't toss around the word entrepreneur like a lot of other people do. I'm talking about self-employed, right? I had to show up. I had to work. I didn't have other people working for me. I didn't have a system. I couldn't just set it and forget it. I was self-employed. And that required so much of my best thinking and my best ability. It stretched me in every way possible. And now 8 years later, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not that stretched anymore. I'm not feeling like I'm pushed to the max every day. Several years ago when I wrote my book, You Are the Brand, you're watching on video, you can see it right back there. That stretched me. And now I'm working on another book, and I've been contracted to ghostwrite books, and I'm like, oh, this is not as hard at all compared to that first book. And that is the cool thing about life, isn't it? It's always the hardest. The first time you do something, you learn a ton, and your capacity grows. And you're able to do these things, and they're not as scary anymore. They're not as also challenging anymore. And therefore, for some of us, the way we're wired, it's not as fulfilling anymore. So if you find yourself feeling this way at all, pay attention to those feelings. You feel like you're outgrowing something. I'll leave you with this example. I love sea life, marine life. I love going to the aquarium. I remember going into various aquariums across the country, Baltimore, Atlanta, there's the famous aquariums. And you'd walk by certain displays and you'd see a shark inside the tank, right? Like, man, how did that shark stay so small? I looked it up one day, and from what I understand, people at the aquarium don't really need to do anything to keep that shark small. So they put it in the tank, it stays to fit the tank. And that's kind of sad. I don't want that to be you. You do not want to be a tiger shark trying to fit into a fish tank. You want to keep looking for bigger opportunities. You keep wanting to grow yourself. You want to function at your best. You want to grow to your fullest potential, don't you? If that means that you go back and work at a company or take a certain job or a position or whatnot, doesn't mean you're a failure. If you need to do that because the market dictates it right now and your circumstances dictate it, you're not a failure. All right, I just want to lay that out for you. Would I ever go back and get a JOB? I'm not sure that I would call it a JOB. I might call it an OPP, an opportunity, right? OPP, yeah, you know me. For those of you, I'm dating myself here. Would I ever go back to getting a regular JOB? I don't think that's the right language. Would I say yes to the right opportunity for greater impact? Then the answer is definitely yes. If you enjoyed this video, I want to invite you to hit like and subscribe. Hit that little notification bell. That way you will get notified every time I release a new video here. If you are listening on the podcast and you enjoyed this episode, would you do me a favor and share it with somebody? Just screenshot it right on your phone, post it on Instagram. You can tag me at Mike Kim. Let me know you saw it. Let me know what you resonated with. And if you haven't yet done so, especially for those of you listening on the audio podcast, leave me a rating and a review. It helps get word out about the show. It's super encouraging. It helps me understand kind of what content you're looking for. Thank you for tuning in today. Hope you found this content valuable. I'll see you back here on the next episode.